Okay, so picture this. You've spent the better part of 30, maybe 35 years working. You did everything right, or at least mostly right. You saved. You contributed to your 401k. You didn't blow your money on things that didn't matter. And now you're either retired or getting pretty close to it, and you're sitting there looking at your portfolio thinking, now what? Because here's the thing, nobody really warns you about. Getting to retirement and actually living in retirement are two completely different financial problems. The whole time you were working, the goal was simple: accumulate, save more, invest more, let it grow. But the moment you stop working, the entire game flips on you. Now you have to figure out how to make that money last, potentially for 20, 25, 30 more years, without running out. And without lying awake at 2 a.m., wondering if the market is going to crater and take your income with it. I think about this a lot, honestly. My name is Jordan, and I've spent an embarrassing amount of time reading about money, behavioral finance, and the quiet strategies that financially secure retirees use. The ones that don't make headlines, don't go viral, but seem to just work. And what I've noticed, watching this space for years, is that there's a growing group of retirees who have quietly figured something out. They're not necessarily the wealthiest people. They're not financial geniuses. But they've built an income strategy around a specific kind of ETF approach that gives them something most retirees desperately want: predictability, stability, a sense that the money is going to keep showing up, even when the market is doing something dramatic and terrifying on the news. And if you've ever wondered how to actually use your investments in retirement, not just hold them, but draw from them smartly without eroding everything you've built, this is probably going to shift how you think about the whole thing. Let's start with the actual problem, because I think a lot of people underestimate it. When most people imagine retirement income, they picture something clean and simple. Social Security comes in, maybe a pension if you're lucky, and then you pull from your savings as needed. Easy. But the reality is messier than that, and there's one specific risk that financial planners quietly consider one of the most dangerous threats to a retirement portfolio. And it has a name that sounds almost academic until you realize what it actually means for your life. It's called sequence of returns risk, and basically what it means is this: the order in which you experience investment returns matters enormously when you're withdrawing money from a portfolio. Not just the average return over time, but when the bad years hit. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine two retirees. Let's call them Linda and Paul. They both retire on the same day, with the same amount of money, with identical average returns over their retirement. But Linda's bad years happen early, right after she retires. Paul's bad years happen later. Even though their average return is identical, Linda's portfolio is going to be significantly smaller after 10 years than Paul's, sometimes devastatingly smaller. Why? Because Linda was withdrawing money during the down years. She was selling shares at low prices to cover her living expenses. She had fewer shares left to participate in the recovery. It's like being forced to sell your house during a housing crash rather than waiting for prices to come back. The math works against you in a way that's really hard to recover from. And this is the thing about conventional index fund investing in retirement. It's brilliant for accumulation, genuinely one of the best tools humans have ever invented for building wealth over time. But in the withdrawal phase, a basic total market index fund doesn't particularly care about your income needs. It's just there, going up and down, and you're responsible for figuring out when and how to sell and hoping the timing works out in your favor. So a lot of retirees quietly started looking for something different. There's a category of ETFs that's been growing rapidly over the last several years, and if you're not watching this space, you might have missed how popular they've become with people actually living through retirement. I'm talking about Dividend ETFs, and more specifically, a newer generation of income-focused ETFs that use strategies like covered calls to generate consistent cash flow from a portfolio. You've probably seen tickers floating around, things like JEPI, SCHD, DIVO, JEPQ. Maybe you've scrolled past them on a finance forum and kept going. But retirees are paying very close attention to these, and there's a pretty compelling reason why. The core idea is actually not that complicated. Instead of relying purely on price appreciation, where you accumulate gains and then sell shares to create income,